With all respect to you, trustees, are you out of your minds? What, have we not been through enough hell? That it was imposed on us from the outside, and you're going to give us a chancellor who's got a long track record of violating labor laws and antagonizing the faculty. This is what we need now? Are you crazy? Well, I understand he's, quote, more experienced than the other candidates. Experienced in extorting large severance pay packages because the districts he worked for couldn't wait to get rid of this guy. And he has threatened wrongful termination, so they've written him really nice letters of recommendation. And this is a man who says, well, I've learned from my mistakes. I'm all different now. You know, Trump promised to be all different, but anybody who looked at his record could see he was the same old sinner. What are you doing to this college? Wake up. Think about the consequences of hiring somebody who was so bad that the faculty twice, in 2 different instances, voted no confidence. You know what it takes to organize the faculty for a vote? Come on, wake up. If nobody was better than this guy, then give us an interim chancellor and keep looking.
Followed by Steve, it might be Zeltz.
Sally Wynn, non-accredited ESL at the John Adams campus now. The last thing this college needs is another autocrat who implements change from the top down without consulting faculty, staff, or students. We've had a series of such leaders at City College, and they have wreaked havoc, leaving us today with an institution much reduced in size, in morale, and in reputation. I can speak deeply and personally to the example of Chancellor Tyler, who closed the Eddy Street campus of Civic Center so abruptly. That closure was nothing short of a betrayal to the faculty, to the staff, and to the students most of all, who to this day have not returned to Civic Center in the same numbers. Why should they return to a school that treated them and us so badly without respect or concern or even the simplest degree of courtesy? I personally still feel the wounds of that treatment. Every teacher, every staff member, every student in this college bears scars from these past brutal years. And from the reports and quotes I've read concerning Mr. Rocha's tenure at PCC, his constituents bear similar scars. I urge you, our new board, for whom I have much respect and much hope and much faith, to think hard about your choice for our new chancellor. If Mr. Rocha is indeed the best we can come up with, if we cannot persuade Chancellor Lamb to stay another 6 months, to allow for another search for a better candidate, perhaps raising her salary to the one you proposed for Mr. Rocha, then could you please, at the very least, promise to write into Mr. Rocha's contract some language that will prevent him from treating his constituency here with the disrespect he showed his constituents in Pasadena. Thank you.
Followed by Steve Zeltz, followed by Roger Scott.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees. My name is William Juarez, and I am very excited for Free City College since I will be a new student in the fall. And I just wanted to say that I've been hearing a lot of conversations regarding Mr. Rocha, and I just want to say that that I'm sure that this was not an easy decision, and it must have been like a very difficult decision for you all to make. However, I do believe in the board that we have in right now, and I am very excited to have a permanent chancellor, and a Latino one at that too. Thank you.
Excuse me, good afternoon. With accreditation for 7 years and Free City College, we have the opportunity to increase enrollment and serve the human and educational needs of 100,000 students as we did well in the past. In this era of liberation and potential growth, City College, in my view, needs a chancellor who will lead, walk with, and inspire us, not one who will try to regiment us or will ignore the constituent voices of our educational community, as Dr. Rocha did at Pasadena City College. When I spoke to a trustee recently, that honorable public servant, and I'm not being ironic, said, "Don't you think people learn from their mistakes?" Well, that seems to me to be the most relevant question of all. From what I've learned about Dr. Rocha, he has many accomplishments, yet there is overwhelming documentation that he failed much more than he succeeded at Pasadena City College. What assurance do you have that he learned from his experience at that college and will not repeat the autocratic behavior, questionable judgment that generated no confidence votes by the faculty and students and the faculty senate? He also he created expensive and contentious legal battles and had a disgraceful end of his service and left that college with the burden of $400,000 in severance pay. I have here in my hand Dr. Rocha's biography that I downloaded from the internet. I'm troubled that a person with a PhD in English from Yale University, not Phoenix or Nova, would miss the typo in his statement. He was awarded tenured. Spell checks don't catch errors like this. We need people who teach English to practice English. And he failed to mention any of his major failings at Pasadena Community College.
Thank you.
Just one moment.
Okay.
History and experience, life experience inform us that people like
Mr.
nations.
Stout, we have a whole lot of people who
Okay.
want to speak
What-
here.
one- okay.
Could you please?
People like nations who fail fundamentally but learn from those failures grow in character and accomplishment. Those who conceal or sanitize the shame of the past don't grow in character and achievement. I hope you will not go through with this appointment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, Ms. Michael Snyder first. I'm sorry, my apologies, I already was behind.
Good afternoon, trustees, Chancellor Lamb, vice chancellors, and of course Linda. And congratulations to student trustee. I'm here in support of the Board of Trustees' decision to hire Dr. Mark Rocha. The district's hiring process was adhered to, and everyone had the opportunity to assist and offer input towards making this decision. I attended both the classified and community forum. In both occasions, Dr. Rocha was honest and had demonstrated knowledge and concerns about our college. At these community forums, we were allowed to ask questions of our own. I asked him specifically to explain more on his issues at Pasadena, to which he spoke honestly and humbly admitted to his responsibility. I also asked him what his belief was on low-enrolled classes. He says he said that in some cases low-enrolled classes were a necessity.
That so many people in this room worked so hard for, and now is the time that we can restore our college. We need a leader who can bring people together. We need a leader that can bring together the very disparate groups that exist on this campus, and we're all aware of that. Mark Rocha is not that candidate. Please, I implore you not to ignore the voices of your faculty. We are here because we love this college, and we are here because we want to work together with leadership to build this college. Mark Rocha is not the candidate for this. He looks good, he sounds good, but don't be fooled. He is not good for City College. Thank you.
Followed by Kate Fry, followed by Adrian Law.
Hi, I'm Ruth Mahaney. Some of you I know. I really appreciate everyone's hard work on this hiring job, but I am really upset about this choice of Dr. Rocha. I have worked here at City College. I'm a part-time lecturer. I've been here for about 15 years, but I've also taught at a number of other institutions. And at one of those institutions, I was part of trying to organize a vote of no confidence of our president, who was really awful. And it was very difficult. It's not easy to have that vote happen. The person really has to have done some things that really upset people, and a lot of people. So I feel like it's a real disrespect of the incredible bravery of faculty and then students to have done this vote of no confidence. It's a big deal. And to ignore it just feels very disrespectful. And I feel like when I looked into the reason, it felt like exactly what we don't need to have happen here. And it's a really hard thing to judge. I've also been on hiring committees, and I've been on hiring committees that hired someone that we thought was really wonderful, and he turned out to be a disaster. And we should have been able to see that if we had looked carefully. So I really urge you to not ignore the hard work of Pasadena's faculty and students in organizing this vote of no confidence. They're trying to tell us something, pass on that word, and can we please find another solution to this? So, thank you.
Followed by Adrienne Law, followed by Jessica Baxbaum.
Hi, my name is Kate Fry. I'm going to be reading a letter written to the board by Karen Saganor. Allison Datz will also be reading part of the letter, so if you wouldn't mind swapping her card out to go after me. You might see some red flags around in the audience, and this is to symbolize the multitude of red flags that we are seeing about Mark Rocha and that we really need to pay attention to. Esteemed members of the Board of Trustees, Mark Rocha's experience includes aggressive resistance to his Board of Trustees and mismanagement of administration. He will not help City College. It's been only 2 years since CCSF had to dump its last permanent chancellor and pay him off. Please don't put the college and put yourselves into the position of having to do it again, and with an even more aggressive antagonist. The board, as well as the rest of the college, will be far better off with an interim than with another destructive, powerful leader. 4 years of Mark Rocha's leadership left Pasadena City College in terrible shape. Based on the self-evaluation written under his leadership and a visit in March 2015, Pasadena City College was put on probation, the more serious sanction than warning. The decision letter shows that Pasadena was out of compliance in regards to planning processes, employee evaluation processes, compliance with their own code of ethics, instability in administrative structure, lack of transparency in participatory governance processes, lack of evaluating organizational structures, a total of 23 standards. None of these failures were for SLO issues or other areas of faculty responsibility. This sanction, I will let Allison
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to continue the letter.
Allison Datz.
Thank you. This sanction was given after ACCJC, responding to pressure, was no longer issuing sanctions indiscriminately. Pasadena and some Peralta district colleges were the only institutions sanctioned at that meeting, the June 2015 meeting. The administrative problems at Pasadena were far more pervasive than just a few mistakes. The sudden cancellation of the winter session and the disinvitation of the commencement speaker mushroomed into major incidents because of Rocha's combative responses and because of the instabilities that he fostered at Pasadena. When a trustee's comment critical of Rocha was printed in the newspaper, Rocha's actions were aggressively hostile. He lawyered up and took steps to silence the trustees, moving towards litigation and seeking changes to board policies on ethics and standards of practice and bylaws. After the $400,000 severance that Rocha extorted from the board was legally challenged by a citizens group and Rocha ordered by the court to return the money, the trustees were enjoined from communicating about it, but his challenges to the board's authority have continued to reverberate. Only 6 months ago did the Pasadena board vote down to change their bylaws that would have muzzled trustees and required them to notify the president of the college about any information requested by the media before a response is provided. City College is on the upswing. If you look up from the pessimism of the outgoing administration to what is actually going on at City College, you can see burgeoning enrollment for fall, renewed focus on serving students' needs instead of ACCJC's rapacious demands. The careful oversight and attention of the board will be needed during this transition time from CCSF's dark, confidence sapping past into a new era of cooperation and growth. Please appoint an interim chancellor for this purpose. within 12 to 18 months, when new opportunities and efforts will be visibly blooming and fruiting, that will be the ideal time to engage a permanent chancellor. Thank you for your thoughtful work. From Karen Saginaw.
Hi, I'm Adrian Law. I am a senior in high school, and I am a prospective student who plans to enroll in CCSF. I don't know much about the situation, but from what I hear, there's a lot of opposition to this new chancellor. I don't know what's going on, but I would like to urge the board to take into careful consideration not only the future of your faculty, your assets, but also the future of your students. Thank you.
Jessica Buxbaum, followed by Alan D'Souza and Madeline Mueller.
I'd like to read from a testimony that was given at Pasadena City College in 2013. It's actually the words of Roberta Tregars, who was an English faculty member at another college, at Santiago Canyon College in 2000-2001, where the faculty there were actually leading up to another vote of no confidence, and that was 12 years earlier. So I want to read some of what she said in that testimony. Recently, I was speaking to a colleague who was a division chair during Mark Rocha's tenure at Santiago Community College. That year, she was reading the local paper and found out that a department in her division had partnered with a local university. This was news to her. She sent Mark Rocha an email congratulating him on the partnership, but also asked that she be informed about these types of ventures in the future. His response: "When you need to know something, I'll tell you." There are stories like this that could be told by many of my colleagues. The sad part about that year, as most people will tell you, is that our school lost our true focus, the students. Inevitably, in the end, it was time and energy well spent, as Mark Rocha did not finish the year. Before our Senate's resolution of no confidence could be voted on, and it probably would have been unanimous, our chancellor asked our Senate board to hold off. And then she goes on to say something that I would echo to you. She said PCC is important to this community, and I would say City College of San Francisco is really important to this community. I hope this group will listen carefully to what I've shared with you. I hope that you will listen. It's time to shift what we're doing here. You know, you guys are elected. We're no longer under state control. And I'll stop there. There are plenty of people who are going to say the same thing. But I do ask you to consider postponing this vote so that we can really have a real conversation.
Thank you. Alan D'Souza, followed by Madeline Mueller, followed by Hannes Reinhardt.
Hi, Alan D'Souza. I also was on the hiring committee that brought Rocha forward and three other candidates. And I will say, from my perspective, the hiring process was fair. The problem is, what we do on the committee is we evaluate their application and everything they send to us in print. We get to hear what they say in the interviews, and we get to believe what they say because we have no other evidence from outside the room. What happens after we make our decisions, we pass it on into your hands and into community forums. At that point, it is incredibly unsettling to start hearing news from unsolicited information from members from PCC, Santiago Canyon College, and other colleges where Rocha has worked, telling us to not do this. We see evidence on the internet. We see evidence in resolutions and votes of no confidence. Evidence that is very, very unsettling. Evidence that maybe perhaps you did not see yourselves. As you know, we have found some new information, and we've shared that with the board of trustees, what we have found, and we hope that what we have seen and what you have seen will lead you to a decision different than what you're planning to do tonight. City College does not need a chancellor who will leave in his wake an accreditation crisis, an enrollment crisis. We are coming out of that. We need to move forward, not to repeat some of the patterns we've fallen into. I ask you to reconsider your choice tonight. Thank you.
Janet Lohr, followed by Hannes Reinhardt and Elena Asturias.
I sent a letter to some of the faculty this week because I found an article, and I save things. I found an article that I had saved, 10-page article from President Rocha at PCC, and this was a year before all of what you're hearing today. And I brought copies. I said I would because it wasn't even on, I couldn't find it on a link, but I had the 10 pages in my old stuff. And that report indicated, now this is a year before what you're hearing all about, and subsequent to that, 2013. It indicated at that time, I saved the article because I felt this was a good guy. And I have to say that because the article, which you all have here, I brought many copies in the back, I would say read it and see what you think. It's well written. On page 9, he says, on Monday, January 9, 2012, I traveled to Sacramento to testify at the Board of Governors hearing on the Student Success Task Force recommendation. And I remember this because I also, with a lot of people from San Francisco, traveled to testify against the SSTF, and there were very few leaders, especially from Southern California, who was on our side. He then said in his report, I told the BOG that the SSTF recommendations represented a fundamental shift in our access mission that was breaking all of our hearts. In our very DNA as a community college is our dedication to the principle that social justice depends on access to free, quality, higher education. So in my files of stuff, I had filed him as, quote, a good guy. Can people change? You betcha. I think they can. I think they can change back and forth and back and forth. I've been around this world a long time, and that can happen. I think we have to be very careful. So it's kind of up to all of us and the board to make up your minds.
Thank you very much. Hannes Reinhardt, followed by Elena Asturias, followed by Karen Saginaw.
Hi, I'm Tanis Reinhardt. I'm the chair of Culinary Arts and Hospitality Studies. I don't think I've ever spoken before the Board of Trustees. I want to thank those of you who did respond to the letter that I sent you. I really appreciate that you took the time to do that. And I want to thank the committee for all their hard work. I think hiring people is a really big job. And in my experience, when you hire the wrong person, you end up with really bad outcome, and it starts with hiring. It's as simple as that. I was dismayed when I saw the email. In fact, I was almost in tears when I saw the email. I sat in every info session. I listened to everybody speak. I hear somebody say that the process was adhered to. Department chairs didn't get a chance to ask questions, not when I was there. I sat through all of those, so I don't think the process was really adhered to. In that way. I think it's an opportunity for a failed search to look like a creative thought process for what we can do differently. The tone is so, the tone here is just, it affects our health, our mental well-being, and I would love to see that change. And I don't think autocratic tendencies is a change. I think that's what we've had, notwithstanding. I don't, and I don't feel that way about Susan. That's me. I think it's an opportunity to show that you really care about City College, and it's okay to say that we went out and looked and we didn't find the person that we were looking for, and it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to say that, I don't know, you can change the word of a failed search into something really positive. I too, thank you, anyway.
Elena Asturias, followed by Karen Saginaw, followed by Michael Adams.
Trustees, good afternoon. My name is Elena Asturias, and I'm a board member of the Friends of the Mission Campus. And I want to thank you for all your work. I know that this is not an easy process. We're at a historic moment right now. We're about to be certified for the City College of San Francisco as a Hispanic serving institution. This is an important time. It's amazing that San Francisco is again a leader in a moment of so much fear for the Latino and other immigrant communities. This is a moment to really stand up and say, this is a safe place. This is a place where we treasure diversity, where we have an incredible mosaic of interests and people, and we're here to welcome everyone. So I would ask you to welcome Dr. Rocha. Thank you.
Karen Saginaw, Michael Adams, and Carl Graham.
So you've already heard something that I had written. I'm concerned about how this is going to affect the board down the line. I actually was on the search committee, not for this particular search, but for the process that hired Tyler. And from what I could see, he looked like the best candidate of what was available to us at that point. And we hoped that he would turn out well. And after a year and a half, he didn't even last 2 years. And then I think it was just before this board got its full power back, and it was the special trustee who had to remove him. So I know it's inconvenient now to say, gee, we've gone this far, but maybe we have to stop and think about this and go in a different direction. It's hard to see what other possibilities there are, but there are other possibilities. And please think ahead to, it sounds to me like people are hoping he's changed. Well, you're gambling so much. It's such a big risk that if he hasn't changed, if he's going to repeats the kind of stuff here that happened at Pasadena, you're going to have a much harder job doing something about that. And everybody in this room and the students and you yourselves will suffer a whole lot more than the inconvenience of at least saying, let's take one more week and look at this now. Thank you.
There's been a request, I'm sorry, Mr. Adams, there's been a request by Lee Lovett to see if she could go next. I think she has to leave.
Yes. Hi, Lee Lovett. We've heard a lot about Pasadena City College. So what I did was I looked at International Education Corporation, where he was vice president and chief academic officer from 2001 to 2006. As you may know, it's a for-profit college. I did an article about Corinthian colleges during its demise, so I've learned a lot about their business practices. I've had students who have been solicited, sometimes even, while they were in classes. They'll get texts on their phones. It's very different from what we do as academic counselors and faculty. Let me read what was in Indeed.com from some of the employees. And this is not unusual. This is actually the typical tenor of these comments. Admissions representative, former employee, Los Angeles. I have to say, if you value yourself or your abilities, do not work here at IEC. Your success is controlled by the management and highly favored admissions representatives. It's all about numbers, which is okay in a for-profit, but the expectations are ridiculous and unattainable. You are constantly threatened on a daily basis and belittled, no room for growth at all. And they lie to employees as well as students. Do not waste your time or energy. Okay, so you can maybe dismiss that, but there were a number of comments like that. And then, let's see, in May of 2016, a nursing faculty member in Miami said, "Why does the Florida Board of Nursing continue to look the other way? It's beyond me. It is obvious these types of programs will never become accredited and yet continue to remain open and take students' money. Nurses that work in these facilities as faculty or nursing directors cannot be blind, they are unethical, etc." So you can see from the tenor that this is the kind of environment and the culture in for-profit colleges. He was a chief administrator in this place, and I think it's very telling. Maybe one might think that in the last 11 or 12 years things have changed, but I think this is kind of common for this kind of organization we do not want here. Thank you.
Steve.
Thank you, and our appreciation to the Board of Trustees for all that you do, all you try to do, and all that you will do, and all that you should do. Let me dispose of one thing. I come to you as a veteran of Director of Affirmative Action, Equal Opportunity and Diversity Initiatives, the second largest employer in the city of San Francisco, and before that with Major University in another city. Do not succumb to the ethnic appeal. I say that to you as an African American man who has struggled to diversify major organizations. We've had our first white chancellor many decades ago. We've had our first black chancellor many decades ago. We've had our first, most recent LGBT chancellor. And we have heard at least twice the appeal to the ethnicity of this candidate. Leave it alone. That's not qualifications. And I say that to you as a champion of diversity. This is your problem. You have created an atmosphere that has, in words of one of our board members, reminded you as trustees to stay in your lane. When you hire a person who has shown the evidence of this kind of power-hungry behavior, dismissive of the authorities over him who have hired him, combative with the constituents who deserve a place in the conversation. And when you say, stay in our lane, Board of Trustees, that's been the slogan and the motto that we've heard. Stay in our lane, let the administration run. You are inviting this individual to be a tyrant. The evidence is in. There's no evidence that he has changed, and this is not a rehabilitation center for failed executives. You dealt a hand to us, and we're going to play it at your next election.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we've heard a lot about Pasadena City College, but here's something else from Santiago Canyon College, which came before. And this is Margaret Manson, a transcript from a videotape testimony at Pasadena City College from Margaret Manson, retired Vice President of Academic Affairs and Professor at Santiago Canyon College. She says, I've read with both interest and concern the supporting documentation for the proposed vote of no confidence for Mark Rocha, President of Pasadena Community College. While I cannot address the internal politics regarding PCC's need to reduce or cancel classes, eliminate faculty, or increase class size, I can speak to his leadership style as I experienced it and his willful disregard of shared governance. Within a very short period of time, it became clear that Mark had no intent of sharing college governance with any other constituent groups as required or had historically been the case at Santiago Canyon College. In reviewing documents from the SCC at the time, it is clear that the SCC faculty also experienced intimidation and, in their words, were treated in a condescending manner, not as colleagues, nor as staff with valid historical viewpoints. I have never worked for a more unscrupulous or unethical administrator. When Mark told me early on that his approach was, in my document this is, quote, this is what we tell the faculty, but this is what we really do, unquote, I knew we were not a well-matched administrative team. I had hoped that somewhere along the way he would have learned to moderate his anger, operate with honesty and transparency, and recognize that all voices need to be honestly considered in the decision-making process. Concerns expressed by the PCC faculty seem very familiar and are consistent with my own experiences. When PCC was hiring the new president, I received a call. I spoke about what I perceived as Mark's anger problem, his treatment of women, as I and my SCC colleagues experienced it. I still have my notes and documents tracking these problems. When it became apparent that Mark was going to be hired, I remember feeling badly for PCC and all those connected to this well-respected college. When my former colleagues contacted me about faculty concerns at PCC, I was sorry, but not surprised.
There's been a request, Gus Goldstein goes next. If we could put Mr. Rick Baum after that, he needs to leave. And then Kathy Burke.
My name is Gus Goldstein. I'm retired now, but I spent most of my 20 years here teaching at the Civic Center campus. As Sally Wynn so eloquently reminded you that campus was precipitously and unnecessarily closed by former Chancellor Tyler, spring of 2015. I'm speaking up because we who were working there at the time know too well, personally, the havoc that can be created by a top-down manager with little or no respect for faculty or for participatory or shared governance. Hundreds of students that semester simply did not have any classes, and some have never returned. We teachers did as much as we could to help our students navigate the changing information, but it was very hard for us to keep up our own morale with last-minute changes to our own schedules, levels, and locations. It was it affected everybody's lives at that campus. Now you are about to hire a permanent chancellor with a track record of top-down management and bad relations with both faculty and students. I know that he has some virtues as a candidate, no question. But City College has suffered too much at the hands of this management style. Can we learn from our past mistakes? I understand that you don't want to hire another interim, but this is too important not to get it right. Please hire another interim, or as Karen Saginaw pointed out in her letter, after about 2 or 3 semesters under another interim with the direction we're going now, this should become a college that a good candidate will want to apply for. Thank
Followed by Gregory Cross.
Thank you for letting me speak and go ahead of others. I'm sorry I have to take off early. I want to address specific issues about Dr. Rocha. I mean, maybe if you hire him, he's going to be great, he's going to be wonderful, we're all going to be thankful that you hired him. But you have to look at his track record, as many people have already articulated, and he has a very troubling track record. And that suggests of how he may be here if he is hired. I want to raise a couple other issues that no one else has raised. One is about the pay level you're offering him, which is well over $300,000. We're constantly being told we have to make cuts, we have to tighten our belts. I find that outrageous that you'd spend that much money on a chancellor, especially when many of my students have told me who are employees here, they aren't even being paid San Francisco's minimum wage. So you have over $300,000 for a chancellor who may be a continuation of the destruction taking place at this school, but you can't pay students. And at a time when we have such great inequality in this country, you can't even pay them San Francisco's minimum wage. To me, that is outrageous. I'd also want you to think about something else. We're San Francisco. We're supposed to have San Francisco values that I know Pam Fisher did not like. But one thing we ought to consider is maybe we need a new structure for running a college. Instead of having a chancellor who often acts like a dictator, maybe we should put power in the hands of some groups like the Academic Senate, the department chairs, and let them run the school. They first of all know the students much more, and they have a better sense of what's needed at the college. And so I would suggest, instead of hiring a chancellor, let's consider a new structure for City College. It's certainly something that would be probably inspirational to people here, and probably encourage a lot of people to put a lot more energy into the school if they know themselves that they are the ones making the policy. So please consider an alternative structure, as well as reconsider this pay level that you're offering this person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathy Burke, followed by Gregory Cross, followed by Anita Wong.